I've dedicated my life to making the greatest positive difference for the greatest number of people, and I'm here to share with you how you can do the same. I believe that everyone has a best self inside of them, and when people are being and living their best self, they are happy and productive and contributing. And by virtue of that, the world becomes a better place, and at every scale. Everybody wants to be seen and feel meaning and be valued, but oftentimes we don't feel or realize that we have access to that experience to be able to cause positive impact on a larger scale. And so I get really excited to help the leaders and people connect the dots. Elements like structure and excellence and rigor and generosity and kindness. When people can see possibility, they get inspired to make it happen, because inspiration is magical and inspiration is contagious. And I wouldn't be the catalyst for that propagation.
Please welcome to the stage, Grandmaster Tony Morris.
In 2007, I opened the doors to Asheville Sun Tzu Martial Arts. Sun Tzu is Korean for pure or pure spirit. And I wrote a mission statement to make the greatest positive difference for the greatest number of people. And the vision was to create this environment where people would work together to make progress. And that progress would be measured by structure and amplified by community. And then they'd be motivated to propagate out into the world kindness and generosity. That was the idea. A few years ago, we enrolled a new student named Steven. He was 5 at the time. And he was a great fit for our youngest class level. We call it Mighty Tigers and Mighty Lions. It's full of 3, 4, and 5-year-olds. And you know, he fit right in. They're all about this big. Steven was really smart. And he made progress really quickly. And in a really short period of time, he was ready to move up to the kids beginner class with the older kids, most of whom are 6 to 10. But what I haven't yet told you is that Steven was dwarf. He had dwarfism. His parents were proud of him for all this progress he made, especially in a short period of time, but they were freaked out at the notion that he was going to be in this class where all the other kids were noticeably bigger than him. And they resisted him moving up. They really wanted him to stay in the younger kids class. And after some conversation, they realized that this would just be putting off the inevitable. So the day came when it was time for Steven to have his first class. And here was the scene. We had like 50 kids out on the mat. And it was a cold winter day outside, and the lobby's packed with all his parents. We had 60 or 70 parents in the lobby. Cozy inside, rooms brimming with energy. And at first, parents in the lobby didn't really notice what was going on. Steven's parents did. They're sitting up straight, shoulders are hiked up high. They got eyes are glassy. And I decided to just go ahead and get all the stuff out on the table. So I invite Steven up to the front of the room. I didn't know what I was going to do. They're looking at me like, what am I going to do? I'm not really sure. But I'm going with it at this point. And so I say, hey guys, we got a new student today. This is Steven. Everybody say hey to Steven. I say, hi Steven. And I said, hey, don't you think it's cool? It's so cool how, you know, in so many ways we're the same. Don't you guys think that's cool? Yes, sir. And I said, and you know, isn't it also really cool how in some ways we're different? Yes, sir. So I go a little further and I say, hey, who can tell me a way that Steven and I are similar? All these hands go up. I call on this girl in the front row. She goes, you're both boys. And I said, yes, we're both boys. Isn't that awesome? We're both boys. And I'm like, okay, this is going. And so then I asked the next question. I said, hey, who can tell me a way that Steven and I are different? And remember, Steven's standing right next to me. I caught my eyes over Steven's parents. They're sitting up real straight and rigid at this point. So are all the other parents. Everybody's paying attention. Everybody knows what's coming next. I call on this boy in the back row, and he goes, Steven's got hair! And we're moving up. And I glanced over to Steven's parents, and tears are streaming down their face. Giant smile on their face, though. This guy, big grin on his face, and his Albert Einstein hair is spilling out in all directions. But in that moment, something broke. And what broke were the shackles called dwarfism. And what was born was this cool kid who was smart, had a big head of hair, and was funny, and was pretty good at his martial arts. And his life was going to be different from that point forward, and not just from his own newfound confidence and excitement about all these other things that he was now going to be willing to take on because he wasn't going to be afraid anymore that he was going to be rejected, but also because his parents saw him differently at that point, and they didn't have to be so overprotected anymore. So the magic of community is that we can see ourselves. And we can see ourselves without distortion. You know, in relative isolation, it's really easy. It's so easy to lock onto an attribute and see that disproportionately. We give it hyper focus, and then we develop this identity that's not accurate and it's not necessary. The solution is to connect with community in relations to lots of people. And the greater variety and greater diversity, the better. Because then we see ourselves accurately, and we take on confidence, and we can move forward.